Hello students, welcome to the history video learning season. I hope you all are safe at home and doing well with your studies. Today we are going to discuss chapter 4, Tribal Decus and the Vision of a Golden Age. In this chapter we will discuss about the tribal communities of India. This is the picture of Birsa Munda, the tribal leader. In 1895, a man named Birsa was in the village of Chota Nagpur in Jharkhand. People said he had miraculous power. He could cure all diseases and multiply grace. Birsa himself declared that God had appointed him to save his people from the trouble, free them from the slavery of Dikus. Dikus means outsiders, means British people. Birsa was born in a family of Mundas, a tribal group that lived in Chota Nagpur. All of them of the tribal groups were unhappy with the changes which were experiencing and the problems they were facing under British rule. Most tribes had customs and rituals that were very different from those laid down by Brahmins. These societies also did not have the sharp social division that were characteristics of the caste society. First question, how did tribal groups live? By the 19th century, tribal groups in different parts of India were involved in a variety of activities. Some were zoom cultivators, some were hunter and gatherers, and some herded animals. Some of them practiced zoom cultivation, that is shifting cultivation. This was done on small patches of land, mostly in forest. The cultivators cut the tree top to allow sunlight to reach the ground and burn the vegetation on the land to clear it for cultivation. They spread the ash from the firing, which contained potash of to fertilize the soil. And after this, they broadcast the seed. That is mean scattered the seeds on the field instead of plow the land and showing the seeds. When the crops was ready and harvested, they moved to another field. Shifting cultivators were found in hilly areas, forest tracts of northeast and central India. Some were hunter and gatherers. In many regions, tribal groups lived by hunting animals and gathering forest produce. They saw forest as essential for survival. So, they used many forest shrubs and herbs for the medicinal purposes and sold forest produce in the local markets. The local weavers and leather workers turned to the khun when they needed the supply of kusum and palash flour to color their clothes and leather. Many tribal groups lived by herding and rearing animals. They were pastoralists who moved with their herds of cattle or sheep according to the season. When the grass in one place was exhausted, they moved to another areas. Here you can see the map of India and location of some tribal groups in India. In India, in the central India, you can see that Bagas and Gonds were there. In the western part of India, one Gujars were there and Bhils, Saharia. At the Jharkhand and Chota Nagpur area, you can see Santhal, Mundas and Orans are there. This is location of India. one Gujjars of Punjab Hills. In this picture, you can see they are doing herding of animals, and they are living in Punjab Hills, Bhakarwal of Kashmir's reared goats. So, next topic is how did colonial rule affect tribal lives? You know that British official on that time saw a settled tribal groups like the Goans and Santals as more civilized than hunter and gatherers or shifting cultivators. Those who lived in the forest were considered to be wild and savage, and they needed to be settled and civilized. The life of tribal groups changed during British rule because before the arrival of British, in many areas the tribal chiefs were important people. They enjoyed a certain amount of economic power and had the right to administer the control their territories. In some places they had their own police and decided on the local rules of land and forest management. But under British rule, the functions and power of the tribal chief changed. Now they lost much of their administrative power and were forced to follow laws made by British officials in India. They also had to pay tribute to the British, and they lost the authority they had earlier enjoyed amongst their people and were unable to fulfill their traditional function. You know that the British were uncomfortable with the group who moved about and did not have the fixed home. They wanted tribal groups of settle down and become peasants cultivators. Settled peasants were easier to control and administer than people who were always on the move. The British also wanted a regular revenue source for the state so that they introduced land settlements. That is, they measured the land, defined the right of each individual of that land, and fixed the revenue demands for the state. After this, the British had made many rules and regulations regarding forest, and the life of tribal groups was directly connected to the forest. You know that. So changes in the forest law had a considerable effect on the tribal life. The British extended their control over all forests and declared that forests were state property. Some forests were classified as reserved forest for they produced timber which the British wanted. In these forests, people were not allowed to move freely, practice zoom cultivation, collect fruit, and hunt animals. So, many tribal groups reacted against the colonial forest law. They disobeyed the new rules, continued with practices that were declared illegal, and at times rose in opinion rebellion. Such was the revolt of Songram Sangma in 1906 in Assam and the forest satyagraha of the 1930 in the central provinces. Which were the problem with the trade in the tribal communities? Tribal groups found that trade and money lender were coming into the forest more often, wanted to buy forest produce, offering cash loan and asking them to work for wages. Silk, for example, silk grower in the 18th century. Indian silk was in demanded in European markets, and the fine quality of Indian silk was highly valued and exports from India increased rapidly. As the market expanded, East India Company officials tried to encourage silk production to meet the growing demand. Now, in the Hazari Bagh in the present day, Jharkhand was an area where the Santhals reared cocoons. The trader dealing in silks sent in their agents who gave loans to the tribal people and collected the cocoons. The grower were paid only rupees 3 to 4 for 1,000 cocoons, and these were then exported to Vardhaman, where they were sold at 5 times the price. The middlemen, so called because they arranged deal between the exporter and silk grower, made huge profit. That's why the tribal were had to go forever for their home in search of work was even worse. Tribal were recruited in large number of to work the tea plantation of Assam and coal mines of Jharkhand. Through the 19th and 12th century, tribal groups in different parts of countries rebelled against the changes in law and the restriction on their practices. You know, the British rule imposed the new taxes they had to pay and the exploitation by traders and moneylenders. In this manner, the Kols rebelled in 1831 and Santhal rose in revolt in the 1855 and Bastar rebellion in central India broke out in 1910. The Worli revolt in Maharashtra in 1940 and the movement that Birsa led was one such movement. Now we will discuss about the struggles of the Birsa Munda. You know that Birsa was born in the mid 1870s and there was a many crisis in front of the tribal groups of the Mundas because they were facing many problems of the ruling of British rule. In 1895, Birsa urged his followers to recover their glories past. He talked of a golden age in the past, a Satyug. Satyug means a age of truth, when Mundas lived a good life, constructed embankments, tapped natural springs, planted trees and orchards, and practiced cultivation to earn their living. The movement identified all these forces as the cause of the misery the Mundas were suffering, and the law and policy of the British were destroying their traditional land system. Hindu landlords and moneylenders were taking over their land, and missionaries were criticizing their traditional cultures. As the British, as this movement spread, the British official decided to act. They arrested Birsa in 1895 and convicted him on the charge of rioting and jailed him for 2 years. After the when Birsa was released in 1897, he began touring the village to gather support. He used traditional symbols and language to rouse people, urging them to destroy Ravanas. Ravanas means the Kus and the Europeans, and establish a kingdom under his leadership. And Birsa's followers began targeting the symbols of the Kus and European power. They attacked police stations and churches and raided the property of moneylenders and jamindar. They raised the white flag as a symbol of Birsa Raj. In 19 100 Birsa died of cholera and the movement faded out. However, the movement was significant in the least two ways. First was it forced the colonial government to introduce law so that the land of the tribal could not be easily taken over by the Hindus. And second was it showed once again that the tribal people had the capacity to protest against injustice and express their anger against colonial rule. They did this in their own specific way, inventing their own rituals and symbols of struggle. So, this is all of the today's video. I hope the concept are clear to you and you will meet in next we will meet in next video. Till then, thank you and stay safe and at your home.